Hello, welcome into a new edition of the Chi Time podcast or Chi Time TV if you're watching this on a video. And my name's Clara Apollo, and I'm a personal empowerment coach and Qigong teacher, meditation mentor, and lots of other things in the background. So thank you for being here with me. And this episode has been inspired by my dear friend Cynthia Harrison, who she just brought up this wonderful topic, right? Called Vulnerable and Victorious, How Sensitivity Became the Superpower of Visionaries. And I'm like, oh, vulnerability is not something that I found very easy, I must say. It really, kind of challenges me, if I'm honest. And I've always been kind of, I'm the firstborn, I'm a Leo, I get on with things, I do it. And then I trip up and I fall and I'm like, oh no, I've hurt my knee, or that kind of, trauma comes in. Now someone's going to have to put a plaster on my knee and I can't do, it's all that stuff about it's okay to be both, And so what happened was when Cynthia dropped me an email and said, what do you think about this topic? Because I've got my new Spirit Whisperers series coming up. Do you want to be part of it? And I thought, well, initially, this is flipping edgy. This is like, am I going to be able to speak into this truthfully? And then I thought, let's write. Let's just write. And I just let a stream of writing come through me. And I had some tears because I was remembering about when I used to live without a home on the edge of a cliff. I know you probably heard this story a long time, many times before, but I do cite it as the place where I really dived very deeply into the valley of the vulnerable, if I'm honest. And it's only in retrospect that I can look at it and speak about it now after having done quite a lot of processing. But I see it as it was a real gem for me to let myself reach that point, because I think we need to unpack the old to create space for the new. So we're going to talk about this topic, but first of all, let me introduce the superstar that is Cynthia Harrison. So here we go. About Cynthia, right? Witnessing the extremes of human experience as Cynthia moved through the world has led to her inquiring into, why do people behave the way they do? It's a good question, yeah. And her strong drive to understand the human condition, because Cynthia observes people, but she's also really widely read, and she includes the ancient texts too, in an attempt to understand what beliefs and conditioning patterns people follow. So she began with a bachelor's degree in anthropology, social work, and visual arts. Yep, she's a total artist, this woman. But she's also going on to work in mental health, acquired brain injury, homelessness, drug and alcohol addiction, and foster care. But Cynthia's speciality has always been about human behavior, why we do what we do, and in particular for those who have experienced trauma and neglect. Because behavior is a language in itself, and if we break it down to look at the body, we can gain immense insight into what is happening for a person and why. Now, Cynthia found that due to the limitations of talk therapies when working in the field of complex trauma, she sought other methods such as art and play therapy, and stumbled across the powerful results of sand play therapy. Well, that just sounds like really good, messy fun, deep, profound stuff. And then she went on to study Dora and Martin Kalf's teachings in Switzerland with the lessons at the Jung Institute. And to further support this inquiry, Cynthia gained a qualification in sensory motor psychotherapy, which looks at the impact on the body when neglect and trauma are experienced and provides interventions that resource the body to work the traumatic experience through the physical systems. So Cynthia has spotted, because she's absolutely fascinated by human behavior, that there's gaps in many of the psychological models. And so she integrated the arts and the sciences, woman after my own heart there, and investigating the quantum idea of the holographic universe, producing artworks that attempted to make visible the invisible. So these inquiries led to the world of energy. Oh yes, we're on Chi Time after all, aren't we? Indeed. And Cynthia went on to travel the world and study with many teachers and numerous energy modalities, eventually becoming an energy medicine teacher and guide. So Cynthia's goal is to assist people to live well, bringing together psychotherapy, energy understanding, and the arts into new modalities. And that she found the international creativity movement and undertook the courses. And oh, you didn't do that. You found it. You found it and did it, right? Going on to complete the teacher's qualification. And then through this intentional creativity training, combined with past inquiries, she offers a complete experience, mind, body, spirit, soul, and all the interdimensional possibilities in between to enable transformative growth and unified education. And I'm going to get her on now because I know she's got some more stuff to say that's not on my list before we get into Spirit Whisperers. So welcome indeed, Cynthia Harrison, to Chi Time.
Thank you. Thank you. That's almost like your life flashing before you, you know.
It's
So
weird, isn't it?
I'm hoping I trust you and know I'm in safe hands. So it's not just my life flashing before my eyes.
No, exactly. No, it is. It's nice to give people a contextual arena as why you're here, what you've done, because when you come to the middle of your life, you've had experiences that really color what you're doing now. And anybody watching on Chi Time TV can see the amazing color behind you here. Color is clearly a very important part of your life, and it's something that comes up on in our inner landscape as well, isn't it?
Yeah. My core, I guess, my core way of being in the world is a creative, and I guess my core work in the world is conscious creative evolution. And if I was to label or introduce myself, it would be as a mystic metaphysician. And so everything that you've shared, which is sort of, I mean, it'll be interesting for people, that even my students, because I don't usually talk about those parts of my, I guess, bio or whatever, but to sort of round all that up, the reasons why I went on that journey that you just beautifully shared was because of my mystical experiences and direct experiences, what I see, feel, sense, know, taste, smell, touch, how I am in the world. And when I looked out into the world, what I saw how others were, and there was this difference. And so to understand who I was, who I am, I went on the journey of studying the human species, basically.
Which is a massive topic, isn't it? Let's face it. But
And I
deeply
continue
intriguing.
to,
Yes.
with myself as the main guinea pig in my
Yes.
research.
Oh, bless you. Wow, wow. But you also you share the information that's coming through. It's not just your own inquiry here. It's like you're doing this on behalf of humanity, aren't you? This is
Mm.
a calling in a way.
It is. It's almost, I guess it's sometimes I joke around and say, it's my selfish whim. And I think, others may recognize this in themselves as well, or not. That all my life I've felt so deeply. And so let's bring in sensitivities a little bit, because it links to the Spirit Whisperer. But so my family used to joke and say I was a hypochondriac, oh, you were right, and all the rest of it. What I was feeling was everybody else's pain and illness. And I didn't understand it.
Mm.
Although, now as an adult, I can see that my lineage is very, there's medicine men and women. My dad's twin brother is a medicine man. My great aunt, my grandmother's twin sister is a medicine woman. And when I was 8 years old, I'd go to her house, and she, I'd have a cough or something, and she'd be rubbing my chest from behind me. And I didn't know what she was doing, and doing all these points and stuff. And as an adult, I understood the reflexology and the energy medicine, but no one spoke about it. It was just what was done. Okay. So I think in my lineage, I was one of the first, other than my uncle, to speak out loud about, how we are experiencing the world. And hey, how are you in the world? And how do you see, feel, sense, know? how, when I look or I view, when I'm looking at you or anybody or anything, my question is always a question like, do you see yourself how I see you? When I look at my hand, or when I take a photo of my hand in the sun, and I can see, it's funny because it almost is like this, I see the blue around me.
Oh,
If I
yeah.
show you the photograph, do you see the blue as well? And my mind is this inquisitive, curious machine that wants to understand myself, but also the other. And by understanding the other, I have more understanding of myself.
That's it, isn't it? That is absolutely it. Curious about the world from different perspectives to get a broader kind of view of what this is all about. And that's so
Mm,
interesting when you said, do you see me how I see you? I don't think any of us see ourselves as other people do. And
no.
and taking you back to that when you first started to ask and inquire about it, how did you feel then? Did you feel your courage coming through, or was it a very vulnerable place to be in? Dare I say this now?
Oh, my childhood was very unconventional
Oh, okay.
and very challenging. And I think that's why I specialized in complex trauma. And it's why uh, myself and my husband now uh, merged together, and we work with the love and fear, or the fear of fear and the fear of love.
Mm.
So because of the, so I mean, we could go to sort of links to the spirit whisperer stuff, like why, I guess, I'm what I'm doing now. Why did I bring up the vulnerability and victorious, or the sensitivities, and that becoming your superpower? Well, my sensitivities to touch in back into, okay, my energetics. So we could say I'm a sensitive. We could say I'm a highly sensitive person. We could say
Mm.
I'm a kinesthetic. We can say I'm an empath. They're all different ways of knowing. Some of us are all of them,
Mhm.
and some of us are one of them. But there's a sensitivity, or there's a way of being in the world and experiencing and inputting the data. And the thing is that when we start to open up and do our work, for instance, or our play, whatever you want to call it,
Mm.
our evolution, it's either by choice or not. So it's conscious or unconscious. And when we're conscious, we can really see. Well, I speak for myself. I can
Mm.
see, and my students, because I take them through it, that when we open, we become more sensitive. So that becomes scary. That becomes a vulnerable place, because you feel more, you see more, you sense more, you hear more, you taste more, you smell. Everything is coming in. Now, it's always been there, and it always is there. It's just that you can't tune into it when you're in the container that you're in right now. So as you stretch, which links to the vulnerability, as you stretch to what else? How else am I? Who else am I? What else am I? And whatever other questions you want to ask, there's a stretch.
An
So
opening and an
yeah.
expansion, but there's also a courage to let yourself feel vulnerability, or to
Mm,
feel vulnerable without feeling like a victim.
yes.
So it's that,
And that,
dare I let myself be vulnerable? Is that okay?
mm. And to add to that, I think that part of that is our education or our information,
Mm.
whether we are understanding that. So I'm saying I grew up without the understanding. So my life work is educating and sharing, and I do a lot of free things like these series, and also free teachings, whatnot, all sorts of things, because I didn't have it. And so
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sharing what I would have liked. And so when I have a direct experience with spirit, with what I call the beloved, and I feel into, is that helpful for somebody else? If I get a no, I just sit, it's just how I am and what's going on in the world. If I get this could help a lot of people. So I'll just share it in a post or a talk or in my classes or whatever. And so a lot of my programs have been, they're alive.
And
they're alive because I'm alive and I'm continually expanding, moving, growing. Yeah, questioning.
And you're also using the discernment filter. So you're asking the question, Spirit, is this going to be useful? And I find that very helpful thing that you've mentioned there, because so often in this arena that we're in, it's all about tell your story. Your story is medicine, which it is, but not all of them, not all the time, are not full on. There's going to be parts that are going to be appropriate as they come round, yeah?
And so as a mystic, when I read something or when I'm speaking to you, I'm seeing it, I'm hearing it in another way. So when people text me, I feel what's underneath it. And so in a nutshell, I mean, there's I guess you can talk about the mystically inclined in all sorts of ways. But the mystic is a questioner. It's like, it's the curiosity of, okay, there's this line. So that's why the ancient texts are, so beautiful, in my opinion, because when I read any, and I'm talking across all religion, all ancient texts, ancient ways of knowing, it doesn't matter what necessarily somebody believes. For me anyway, that I guess that's my belief, right? It's about what's the mystic understanding of that, what's there that we can't see without that way of knowing, without that ability to see beyond what is said. So a parable or a story or a or anything in the world, really. So it's that ability to see beyond what's really there.
Exactly. So it's not just the words that are in the story. In fact, that's why parables work better, because there's an underlying energy that is being shared, like you said, like with the text or other words that are coming through as well. We're using the English language at the moment, but we're also connecting energetically, like you are listening to this. There's an energetic component to this. There's all sorts of information coming through, and we pick it all up differently according to our filters and our experiences and how our hearts are and how we feel in our bodies. And there's that piece about being innately curious, and are we actually looking for the answer, or are we looking to explore the question and as many facets as it's wanting to reveal to us? And so, do you know what I mean?
I call it the mystic truth.
Okay.
So I'll say my work is around the mystic truth. Now, that people are going to have different ways of understanding what I just said. This is meaning making. So the anthropologist in me is looking at meaning making, right? Yes. Every word has a different meaning, a different understanding to everybody. Even if you're speaking English, well, who's English? Australian English, the Queen's English, American English, and any other, or a Western Australian English or a Northern Australian English, right?
Or even Pidgin English. Let's just
Pidgin English, right? And there's different Pidgin English. So there's the Pidgin English in Hawaii, right? And there's the Pidgin English in Australia. And I can understand little bits of it because of the Australian Pidgin English. So anyway, making. So we could go on about this, but let's. So meaning making and the mystic truth is sort of like meaning making. And when I'm looking at the seed of something, where does it come from, and can I see it in everything? And that to me is that the love and fear, or the unconditional love, the purity of unconditional love, is a truth that is in everything. And if you can't see it in everything, then it's not unconditional love. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, I like that.
So that's sort of when I say the mystic truth, I don't say, oh, it's my truth or it's the truth. Everything that somebody says is a truth. In how I hear it, it's true, because everything is love and fear. Everything is a polarity in this world.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's there somewhere. And if somebody's saying something that I maybe it's not a belief of mine, or I can't quite see it yet, it's like, oh, interesting. That's yeah, I know that there's a truth there, because I understand the human condition of the polarity. Okay, I'm seeing that, but if I just look this way, oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, right. So it's always curious. It's always being curious.
Yes.
And I think that's the key. So just to go, I mean, we're slightly going off into energy now, but that's the key as a, so I say spirit whisperer, but a spirit whisperer, see again, the wording, what's the meaning of spirit whisperer? Well, to me, it's consciousness. And so it's not whispering or talking necessarily only to passed over spirit, although it is. It's not necessarily speaking to spirit or the beloved of God, although it is. It's every aspect of this, of spirit, which is all the aspects of consciousness that make up the human as this species, right? So the spirit whisperer means, I've not talked about this before because it's just my baby, I guess. And now, you know, so thank you for bringing that out. I wouldn't have thought to speak about it, but think about what spirit is. Because some people will think, oh, it's mediumship and psychic awareness and trance and whatnot. Yes, and it's my direct experience with the beloved, because the mystic has direct experience. That's the difference. Once you have direct experience, you have access to all the other clairs, all the other ways of knowing, like you see, feel, sense, know, see. So that's the core, is to go direct, or to have that. I guess you could say, go to that still point, the you know, and you are all of it, and you have access to all of it from that space. So I sort of went off to the left or right there. So I'll bring it back to you, what you wanted to say.
It's really good that that you're up for speaking about this, because you interview so many other people, and how many folk just say to you, oh, what is this spirit whisperer thing then? What's going on here? And
no one's ever asked me. Nobody's ever asked me.
you know, what does it mean? I mean, it sounds like pure poetry, spirit whisperer. And yet, actually, as you were describing that, it felt like it's opening the different layers of listening. It's, you know, and like, it's not just words that we get our communication from, as we said a bit earlier. So if we come back to this polarity thing, which, you know, we're in a world of duality, polarity, whatever, and the dance of the yin and the yang, the love and the fear, the up and the down, and that space in the middle, that place in the middle, that the still point, or I think you refer to it as the neutrality, and that being a place where you can access peace and resource, and so much. That's an intriguing spot. That's one of the places that I am deeply interested in, because it's kind of one of those places that I practice with the Qigong, particularly when you embody the figure of 8 movement, which I share in more depth on the Spirit Whisperer 4 series, just saying. It brings you into a feeling of it, rather than just the brain going, oh, I like that idea. But the thing is, like anything, as soon as you've had the feeling and noticed it, it's gone, and you have to come back in again. So it's ever it's like the ever unfolding now moment, isn't it? And it's an intriguing space to keep drawing yourself back to, because in this world of crazy mayhem, let's just call it that, where can we actually come into our sanity, our connection to the Great Mother, to our hearts, to the Great Spirit, for the resource, for that truth, that mystic truth that you talk about, that is so fundamentally part of each and every one of us, but is clouded over, and, you know, got so many layers. We have to get rid of it all to be able to come into it, which is what our practices are all about, right?
Oh, interesting. My so I'm a Kundalini teacher, and you know, also
As well as,
but that is a core piece, and understanding the numbers that go with that, which I want to bring in the 5, which relates to what you just said. So let me just, and we touched on this a little bit in Spirit Whisperer, but how if we can understand this 5. And so numerologists will think of it in all sorts of ways, I'm sure, but bear with me. It's about our incarnation when we come into the world as the number one, which is the soul coming into the body, number one. Number two is our negative mind, and how we are adjusting and traversing the negative mind as the soul in the body. That's number two. We get to, so we've got one, and then in the two, we're taking a step and seeing another. You see, so there's this whole, we could spend weeks just talking about each number and the spiritual bodies that go with each one, and the experience as a human within, you know, soul in the, you know, the body, the mammal, right? And then we've got the three, which is the positive mind. And so we're coming in, having to go, okay, the soul comes into the body, it doesn't come fully in. And so, you know, like I sort of describe it as the upside down sort of triangle or iceberg, you know, and there's the tip of the tip of the tip of who we are is in this physical vessel. And so a lot of the work that I do and a lot of what I teach is around bringing more light into that vessel, being able to bring more into the vessel, and that creates vulnerability and sensitivity because we have to stretch a little, and when we stretch a little we get scared. So let me go to 4. So 4 is like going into that neutral mind, but the 5 is where is the cross. It's the cross where we go. So bear with me. So 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 = 10. And there's the 10 bodies. And it goes into 11 and 12, but that's where we're acknowledging that me and God are one. I am that I, you know, the beloved, the guru, whatever you want to call God, lives within me. And you are the temple, and that's sort of outside of those, you know, you're moving from the birth into the body to experience life here, and then we get to the 5 it's around here, where that's the threshold, it's the bridge, it's the integration and the regulation, the communication link. And so when you were talking about this space of, yes, there is the neutral mind, right, where we sit, but there's then we're moving from that neutrality into this whole nother way where we've got the journey of from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So this 5, this halfway to 10 is this, I guess, the balance, the in the center of the circular 10. The 5 is within the circle of the 10. Does that make sense? Or it's a little okay. So because sometimes I speak in some people say I speak in code, but it's really just you know, bringing around this. And so it is the paradox, and the core way that the mystically inclined or mystics will speak of in paradox, or of paradox and understanding paradox, which is when I look at something or I hear something, I also hear the other.
Yes.
So that's why there is truth in it all, when it is when you're able to see it that way. And that is our journey. That is our journey in life. And there's different metaphor ways of knowing in all the scriptures and all the way, you know, and languages, that when you can see what they're saying, there is truth there. And so that's why you can say, or the Bible is this, or the Quran is that, or the Zohar is this, or the well, the Old Testament is the Torah, right? Is that, you know, all of these, and whatever other books there are I'm intrigued by how people believe what they believe. And so I'm wanting to understand how we believe what we believe. So our beliefs and conditioning patterns set us up. And our beliefs and conditioning patterns come from our early childhood. And that sort of,
Yes.
I'll let you have a breath.
Yes. And because as you're saying that, I'm remembering part of my teachings in the Qigong is all around the Tao Te Ching, and that when you read that, it's all in paradox. It's like the logical
Yes.
mind cannot make head nor tail because it's not supposed to. You've got
Yes.
the underlying message that reaches through the logic that comes
It
into
will
the
make,
into a kind of gnosis. It's like it's something you recognize, but you can't quite put your finger on it because it's a feeling or.
yeah. And you can't, and this is, I guess, the point. So thank you for that. You reminded me where I was going with that. That when you're sharing and you're asking, because if I'm teaching, so I teach 10-month programs, 12-month programs, 7 sometimes, a lot of the bigger ones are long, at least a year. The reason is because I was saying my Kundalini name is means the one who cleanses away to reveal God, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
So Simran Ishnan. So
So I
that's
mean
what it means.
I know
So
there's so many areas we can go into here, aren't there? And
well, just let me pull
go on
this
quickly.
together,
Yes,
because
this one. Yes.
it's like the that clearing away or that cleansing or that revealing, we can only share at certain points in time. So if I'm teaching and I've got this aha, it may not be appropriate for where those people are at. So that's why a lot of the mystic teachings were secret teachings, or they weren't shared broadly. How I get them direct. Like I just know stuff. It comes in and I'll be like, whoa. So then I'll go looking for, is there somebody else who has, right? But my point is that there are these stages of development and they relate, and I'll try and do it in a nutshell, because I think it's important to set up why we're doing what we're doing. At that core state, we see fear or we see love. That's it, not together. You're either in fear or you're in love. The next stage, you can be in fear, but you know that there's love and you can get a sense of it, right? So that's where a lot of humanity is. But the third level is where you're in fear and you're in love at the same time. That's the paradox, where you see both. And when it first starts to happen, it's really like, whoa, there's somebody's dying and I feel it so deeply, but I'm filled with this grace and I can't quite understand it. It's that where there's so much light in the darkness, and you can hear it, or we can speak about it or read about it or whatnot, but it's a direct experience. And so that's why giving direct experiences, how you do and I do, and we do in Spirit Whisperers, we get direct experiences or tools and techniques to start to explore what that is like for you in your body. Right. To be able to then understand, oh, that's what they mean. And so students usually will come back and say, oh, you would say the gold is in the trees, or I'd say, the trees are speaking to me. And then they'd come back after practicing and whatnot, and they'll be so excited. They'll be like, I understand what you mean now, because they've had a direct experience of
They've
it.
had their communing of it. But the other pieces here is about spiritual bypassing that can occur with all the, sorry to say it, the love and light brigade. Don't get me
Yes.
wrong, I am a complete
Yes.
golden-hearted light woman, but I'm also really tuned in to the atrocities in the world. I'm aware of them
And
because they are there. And if we don't see that, we are ignoring part of humanity. And it pains me. It pains me like it does to so many of us. It's like, it's, yeah.
We
Whew.
feel it deeply. This is the thing. I said to my husband when he met me, I said, if you aren't willing to go to the dark, then I'm not the woman for you, because I am the feminine within the feminine, I'm masculine, feminine in a feminine body, but I am working with the Divine Mother, the great energy. We could say the Shekinah, which is an aspect of the beloved that is here on the earth. And when we can connect with that aspect of spirit, that, like, you can sort of conceptualize it, I guess, as soul to spirit, right? So the aspect of us that can then merge and marry and really become one is, it's not necessarily the feminine and masculine aspects of God or the beloved, because there is not that. But if you can, it's just, see, its meaning, its language, it becomes difficult to be really true about explaining this part of it, but it's a connection there, and that is the drop of the feminine, so to speak, in everything here. Even the those who identify as men and masculine are the feminine to the other aspects, right? Because it's polarity. So everything here on this earth, in one way, see, there's truth and non-truth in everything that I've just said there, because I'm also, if any of you that know biblical Hebrew, every sort of word for things is either a masculine or feminine. Even water is feminine, all of these ways of knowing. But at the core of it, bringing it back to that point of, okay, well, how do we understand this? If, and I guess, again, it goes back to belief. But my way of knowing is that there is a connection here, an energy here that we can connect with and bring into us more, right? Some
Yes,
call it
definitely
the feminine, the Shekinah, the Great Mother, whatever. And through that energy, then we can connect to greater spirit or the other aspect of spirit. Does that
So,
make sense?
yeah,
Or
because it's leading into, like, when you're vulnerable,
mm,
who holds you? To me, when I was living on the cliff and I went into my deep dive of vulnerability, it was the Great Mother. She was the only thing that I could turn to. I'm so grateful for that experience, and that, yeah, it's the yin. If we don't want to use a gender,
there you
then it's
go.
the yin and the
Well,
yin and the yang. So it's
yeah, yeah.
like the yin holding principle is the container, so that the yang, the light, the action can land in something. And we all need to be held, especially when we're feeling